Well, we are now approaching the end of this week where you will be able to specifically get Hydra Stomper if you were to target him in this new, refined, potentially improved, depending on your opinion, Snap Pack token shop. So this is the final weekend, the final moments, as we used to call this video, where you'll be able to target a Hydra Stomper for 6,000 tokens and specifically get him. He will continue to be in Snap Packs all of next month. So the interesting thing about Hydra Stomper is that something like Strange Supreme is you had all of this week and all of next month that you'll be able to get him. But Hydra Stomper being the last card of the month, you'll only be able to get him this weekend, all of next month. So, he has less time. Anyway, he is not going away forever. So that's why this video is no longer called Final Moments. But I need your input on what type of... These videos are going to change a lot, and they should change because the FOMO system of the spotlights is gone, which is a good thing, especially in a mobile game, a gambling, loot box style mobile game. To have that FOMO experience taken away is absolutely a good thing that I did not talk about enough in my last rambling video about snap packs that I released, which thanks for the response to that. Even if you disagree, I love seeing your comments. I'm slowly working my way replying to them. So thanks for watching it and commenting. But your comments will also be helpful in this video as I try and figure out what, these final moments videos are going to be very, very different. Figured I might try and get them out earlier to help you with your weekend missions as you try to earn those extra tokens with the newest card. So let's talk about Hydra Stomper, and also I'll give you some deck ideas. I've actually got 11 decks today for Hydra Stomper for you to try and get those 200 tokens from the weekend missions. So looking at the data we have for Hydra Stomper, his popularity rate is 12.5%, and then his win rate and cube rate are both what I would call negative, of a 49% win rate and a negative 0.15 cube rate. Comparing that to Strange Supreme, get my notes over here. Strange Supreme had a 37% popularity, 50% win rate, and then just barely a negative cube rate at 0.01 cubes. I'm not surprised that Strange Supreme was more popular and more effective. If I had limited resources and was deciding between the two, Strange Supreme from like a competitive power standpoint is definitely the one that is more powerful. However, I would not put too much weight in these. I don't put too much weight in these statistics ever, but this week in particular, and with Hydra Stomper to the extreme, I don't think these statistics are very worthwhile for multiple reasons that we'll kind of talk about as we transition into the decks. But one, Hydra Stomper is a unique type of move card. His ability, it makes sense in move, but as someone asked on the Strange Supreme final moments, B. Frigus. Is that how you say your name? You've got Electro as your profile picture on YouTube. You asked if he was going to be essential in move bounce. I don't think so. I would rather have like a Sage or a Beast or anything else besides him. Like the interesting thing about move bounce is that you're not actually moving a lot of cards. You're moving like 2 or 3 cards just over and over again. And so something like, we'll get into the decks. He is a different type of move deck, not the typical move decks that you immediately think of as being like the move archetype. In addition to that, he was also released with 3 surprise cards that we weren't planning on that are all move cards of Topaz, Batroc the Leaper, and Fan Fei. And so, of course, we're having to experiment with Hydra Stomper, which I think requires experimentation because his move archetype is different than the existing move archetypes we've had. And then we also had 3 new tools to go into that move archetype. And so I think that there's been a lot of experimentation. I also think that there's been plenty of people who've wanted to counter this week. And we will see that as we get into the decks, which is really sad that people chose to play Scream. I try really careful to not like assign morality to a certain deck. If you want to play Scream, that is fine. Play Scream. I personally, not my cup of tea, not the type of card that I like to play. And I joke that, you're being rude, you're being a bully if you play Scream on the week that 4 move cards are released, which is true. You are kind of being a bully, but go ahead, be a bully. Like, play whatever you want. Like, truly, don't give any thought to what other people, including me, are saying about what you choose to play. But if I play against you and you're playing Scream, I'm going to be frustrated. But that's just, like, nothing on you. I'm just frustrated because I don't like playing against Scream. Nothing wrong with your choice of what you choose to play. Nonetheless, that was a random tangent. This data isn't the most important. I think Hydra Stomper is better than this data reveals because he's more unique. And so we'll get into that. As we talk about my rating, I did purchase him using the new pack system, which was really nice. So I'm able to save 1,000 tokens. I'm in a pretty good spot there. I talked about that in my last video. But my rating, I gave him 3 question marks as I was doing my keys decision video, which now what am I going to call that? We don't have keys. I can't call it keys decisions. Token decisions doesn't sound the same. Token something. pack choices. That doesn't sound good either. Pack picks. That's horrible. I don't know. We'll come up with something. Anyway, I gave him 3 out of 5. And I currently also give him a 3 out of 5. But I haven't given him potential of being a 4 question mark card the same way that I would consider speed a 4 question marks card. Is speed particularly exciting? No. Is speed a card that gets a lot of play? No. Is speed a card that when I play him in the decks I play him, he always gives me good value? Yes. Has it taken me personally a little bit of time to find a spot for him that I like and is a little bit unique besides the just obvious synergies that he has in ongoing decks? Yes. However, the sad thing is that with the change to Captain Carter, I think the spot that Speed had in an ongoing deck with Moonstone, like a straight up ongoing deck with Spectrum, that was the word I searched, a Spectrum ongoing deck, Speed was phenomenal, those, especially with the Moonstone. You get Moonstone and Speed in one location, that's just so much power. The sad thing is that if I were making that deck now and playing that, I would choose Captain Carter over Speed. It's kind of sad that Speed has lost his place there. But if you're playing a Wiccan deck, Speed makes a ton of sense to include. They're also brothers, so that's lore accurate. Nonetheless, Speed is a card that is like kind of forgotten in the meta. Not a lot of people play him, but when I choose to play him, in fact, my favorite deck of all time, the More Mirage deck, has Speed in it. He always gives me insane value. I love having Speed in that deck. So he fits, and he performs really well in his spot, and I think Hydra Stomper is going to do the same. I think that the move decks are kind of going to move on from Hydra Stomper, like people are going to be more interested in Topaz or Batroc the Leaper, as an example, or Fanfei, and so he might not be the most meta-relevant card, but I think the people, and I hope to be a part of that group, I plan to be a part of that group, that continue to experiment with him and cook with him are going to find a spot where he consistently puts out 10 to 12 power, just like Speed, for a 3-drop is just insane. And then, of course, you have all the benefits of that being ongoing that can be, Onslaught, Citadel, or whatever. So I do think that he has the potential of being a 4 question mark card. In my personal, again, because this is my rating, I'm not quite there with him yet. I haven't been experimenting with him enough, and I haven't quite found the home where he's truly 4 out of 5. Right now in all the spots he's 3 out of 5, sometimes getting up in that 4 range, but not consistently, and that's because of the deck building that I'm still trying to figure out. So speaking of deck building, let's take a look at the decks. I have 6 decks, I believe, from just based on the data, and then I have 5 decks, 4 or 5 decks for myself. No, it's 7 decks that I have from the data and 4 from myself. So anyway, the first one, as I kind of alluded to, is a Scream deck, as people chose to counter it. Really, really interesting because Hydra Stomper, your cards have to move. So, if you play a Polaris, as an example, Hydra Stomper does not get power from the Polaris, but he does get power from Batroc, who's going to follow the Polaris. Right, so if you play Polaris and Polaris moves a card of your opponent's, and Batroc's in another location, Batroc will follow that. So you can get a lot of value, same thing with Cannonball. It's interesting that in a Scream deck, you only have 1, 2, 3 cards of Spider-Man, Cannonball, and Polaris to actually benefit Scream, which 3 procs on Scream alone is still pretty good. You have just Kingpin, Red Guardian, and Kraven to just continue to wallop that power destruction and power increase, and Batroc the Leaper only helping that. And then you have Silk going crazy. Of course, this is a deck where Hydra Stomper is going to make sense. Again, his win rate is not phenomenal, but it's still a strong deck. I do think that if you were going to play a Scream deck, play something else besides Hydra Stomper, is my opinion. I think that you can get much more value in a Scream deck, making it a regular Scream deck, is my opinion. Though I do think Batroc, it makes a lot of sense in Scream. Again, to clarify, play however or in whatever you want. Hydra Stomper does make sense in this style of a Scream deck, but if you're in, again, I don't play a lot of Scream, so my opinion is pretty meaningless, but if you're interested in building a really competent, powerful Scream deck, I think that it makes more sense just being a more typical Scream deck. Then we have what I'm calling Junk by Night, which is kind of cool. We've seen decks like this before that are kind of like Clog-based decks with Werewolf by Night. That's a really, really strong synergy, especially with Goblins. We've seen that before. But this one just has weird moving pieces in it. Obviously, Sam Wilson's Shield with Batroc, you just get 2 moves every turn, which is insane. And then, of course, as Werewolf is moving around, you have even more moves. So, Hydra Stomper can actually go pretty crazy in this style of deck. I'm actually interested to really try it out. It's fun to see Silk included in so many of these decks because you just, that's multiple moves a turn, and Hydra Stomper's getting up to 12 power that way. When you have Sam Wilson's Shield, Batroc the Leaper, Silk, and Werewolf all moving around, Hydra Stomper's going to get pretty big. I have been wanting to play a really, really fun Annihilus deck, like not a typical Clog deck. And that's why I would call this a junk deck, which I know last week I called the Clog deck junk. But I kind of differentiate those two, even though I call them the same thing. Clog is more like the things you're used to, where you're truly trying to clog their board with demons, not demons, rocks, and Doc Ock, and those types of things. And then you're playing Cannonball. Of course, those do include things like Century and the Hood, but I've wanted to play specifically an Annihilus junk deck. And I haven't found one that felt particularly good. This looks like my type of style of deck. And so I have not tried it yet, but I'm really, really excited to. It looks fun and, pretty strong win rate. The next one we have, I'm calling Movers because it has cards that move on their own, some of them. Again, like I mentioned, the combo of Sam Wilson, Craven, Silk, and Batroc the Leaper, you can get Hydra Stomper with pretty insane power, and then you include cards like Vision and Captain Marvel, and you've just got a pretty well-rounded deck which got cards moving around and adding good power. Like, you're just playing consistent power to the board. Next we have is, like, this is a move deck, then that it has Heimdall and Fanfei and Hercules, but there are, like, 0 move scalers outside of Craven, Hydra Stomper, Silk, and Batroc. Like, again, those are not even Silk. So the only cards that are scaling from movement is Batroc, Craven, and Hydra Stomper. And so it's really, really interesting that you would include Hercules, Fanfei, and Heimdall just for that. Like, I mean, obviously it's working. He's got a 52% win rate in 250 games, but it doesn't seem like it would be... Like, I would not take this to go climb on the ladder. Like, cool, it works, but it's only got a 0.1 cube. Like, this just feels really disjointed to me and not cohesive. It just feels like people are like, oh, let's go for the largest Hydra Stomper possible. And maybe that's exactly what they were doing. But, it's there. The next one we have is a Madame Move deck, right? So this is like, it took a while. There were so many Scream decks. I forgot to mention that. In Untapped, I had to, sorting by win rate, I had to go through so many Scream decks before I found a deck that included a typical move piece like Human Torch. This one doesn't even have Vulture. It doesn't even have Dagger. It's so weird to me that the way that Hydra Stomper is being used is in decks that don't even use move scalers. This is the first one that has the typical move cards of Ghost Spider, Human Torch, and Madam Web. And then it's even still missing cards like Vulture and Dagger. It's just really, really strange. Topaz, also a card that I think provides incredible value for Hydra Stomper, especially if you got Madam Web in the middle, or even Hercules in the middle. Like, you just Topaz them over into the center and then kick them away with Hercules, or move them with Madam Web the next turn. It's just, it goes crazy. So again, it is a lower win rate, and so it's interesting that, like, as I alluded to, I think Hydra Stomper is actually making more sense in decks that use cards like Silk and Spider-Man and Batroc and Topaz, and less so the Human Torch combination. However, Human Torch with Topaz and Ghost Spider is honestly insane. So the next one we have is an Angela deck that I wanted to include because I wish I could have gone to it. I didn't have a lot of time this week. I feel like there's something in that, like, Angela, Elsa Bloodstone, Kitty Pryde package that includes Topaz that's really, really interesting for me. I kept trying to experiment. I think that this is closer to it than what I was trying. But that style of deck, like, where you can just play into Angela and Elsa Bloodstone or Hope Summers over and over again and get the value of Topaz and Hydra Stomper, like, those two combined in this Angela, Elsa Bloodstone, Hope Summers package seems super interesting to me. The problem is that Hope Summers, Elsa Bloodstone, Topaz, and Hydra Stomper are all 3 cost. And so the curve gets super clunky, and then you're, like, trying to put so much of your win rate into Topaz. So what if you don't draw Topaz? So you have Hydra Stomper there for nothing. So I think that this is closer to that type of thing where you have other cards that can do some moving, like Captain America Sam Wilson, which does great in Elsa Bloodstone decks because of the shield. And then Batroc makes a lot of sense. Spider-Man, just being Spider-Man, and then Silk. So I think there's something here. I personally want to do some more experimentation with this, and I think Hydra Stomper could be really good in this type of deck. So whoever came up with this, good job. So the next one we have is one, I'll never be him, that is just really, really fun. I'm surprised how good the combo of Heimdall and Fanfei work extremely well. This is a more traditional move deck. I went the approach, I originally had Hercules in here, but I just thought, this deck needs Cosmo. It works better with Cosmo. Like, instead of getting super greedy, let me be reasonable, and it worked really, really well. I particularly love the combo of Cloak on 5 and moving cards to the location of Fan Fei, and then moving Heimdall, and then moving them back with Fan Fei. Like, you get so many movements in that last turn, and Hydra Stomper can really get pretty huge in that way. Again, this one wasn't the best because it is still a move deck, and you are really reliant on the pieces coming together, and if you don't draw those pieces in the right order, it really, really suffers. It has a hard time coming up from like behind if the pieces aren't coming together from the get-go, which is the case of any move deck. And then we have this one, which is like, okay, I wanted to do the same thing, but without Heimdall, and I just want to focus on Fan Fei. I was surprised by the combo of Galacta and Human Torch. It is just huge, especially when you got Ghost Spider and Madam Web and Doctor Strange and Fan Fei. Like, it's just a great way to get some good value. Again, not the strongest. Like, if I were wanting to play, sorry, my nose is so itchy. Goodness. If I were wanting to play a Fan Fei deck, I actually think this one's better. But this one was fun to experiment with too. And then we have Hydra by Night from Tucker. I saw that Tucker released a video. I made some changes to just turn it into a more typical bounce deck with Hydra Stomper, but this was the one from his video that I thought was fun. I love a Werewolf by Night bounce deck, and Hydra Stomper can get some pretty good value with Werewolf by Night. However, and Batroc can get great value with Werewolf by Night. However, the problem is you have 2 cards, Batroc the Leaper and Hydra Stomper, who are completely dependent on being valuable at all, with Werewolf by Night being drawn and playing. If you don't play Werewolf by Night, Hydra Stomper has 0 value. Batroc has 0 value, except unless you get lucky with a Hydra Stomper. And even then, okay, cool, you played a 1/4 and a 3/3. Like, that bounce deck needs more than that. And so it's fun. I just don't think that this is the best spot for it. So then I tried to do something similar. I thought, okay, I want to do a bounce deck. And this one, I really want to find a spot to include Nico. The good thing about bounce decks is that you can, I know it's inconsistent, doesn't happen every time, but you can really, really rely on that Nico draw spell to get into your deck, to get the combos you need, to at least make up the game late. So any bounce deck that doesn't have Nico, I feel like I'm always struggling with because I'm always relying on that card draw. However, this one was really, really fun because I was looking at all these cards, right? And Fastos wasn't in here originally, but I was looking at Hydra Stomper, and I was looking at Werewolf by Night and Hitmonkey and Beast, and I was like, that's a lot of 3 costs. I'm gonna play Surfer in here, and my goodness, has it's been fun. Because depending on your card draw, you don't even have to play your 1 cost early, which in that case, maybe I should take out Hawkeye. Sometimes you're just saving your 1 costs, even just 0 on reveals. You haven't played them all, but you're saving them for turn 6 when you're going to dump a handful of 1 costs with Silver Surfer and Hitmonkey with Werewolf by Night and Hydra Stomper on the board. Werewolf by Night is going to bounce around. Hydra Stomper is going to go up. And then you're going to play a Silver Surfer on top of all those 3 costs, which no one is expecting with a Hitmonkey deck. And it's been extremely inconsistent, but extremely fun. So if you want like a fun deck that is really, really unique with Hydra Stomper, this is the one. I would probably take out Hawkeye for Nico just to have that card draw. Or Iceman, one of those 2. I always like Hawkeye and bounce. Not Kate Bishop Hawkeye, this Hawkeye. Anyway, this one was fun. Again, not very strong, not very consistent, but really, really fun to play. And then the last one we have, I know is not a Hydra Stomper deck, but I wanted to include it because I am really surprised that Phoenix Force has been completely forgotten this week. Phoenix Force and Topaz is crazy, and that is coming from someone who hates playing multiple man with Phoenix Force. I just want to go, I was really, really tempted to take Dagger in for multiple man, and I actually still might try this, but this one worked really well and is a ton of fun. Also, if you get the name, you are a legend. I considered naming it Prepubescent Flying Ace, but that didn't fit. Like, I couldn't get that text in the deck title. Anyway, it's a fun deck. Like, Phoenix Force, just it makes a lot of sense with these new move cards of Topaz, Fan Fei, and even Batroc. So, fun deck. Anyway, that was 12 decks. That was a longer video, but we got to experiment. We got to figure out what is this new type of video that we're going to have instead of final moments, and it's probably going to be more deck focused as I try to help people accomplish their weekend missions and just provide value if they chose to get Hydra Stomper. But also, it's tough because I also want to inform people who might be waiting to get Hydra Stomper later, and so maybe I don't know. Let me know as we get into snap packs. I'm thinking that like at the end of next season, when these what is this season called? Like this what if season, right? So next season when we get into the young X-Men, that X-Men one, they released the developer trailer for it. I don't know what it's called. We'll look at a card here in a second. When we get into that season, these cards from What If are going to be in the seasonal snap pack, Series 5 snap pack for one more season, right? That X-Men season. At the end of that X-Men season, these What If cards will be leaving the seasonal snap pack Series 5, and they're just going to go into the collector's snap pack of like a pool of like 78, 79 cards, something like that. And so if you're interested in them, getting them in the seasonal snap pack is definitely more worthwhile. So because of that, and I'd love people's feedback in the comments on this, I'm thinking about at the end of the X-Men season taking a look at all of the cards from the What If season as well, because they'll be in the seasonal snap pack for the last time. I don't know. Let me know if that would be valuable to you, and we can look into the data of those cards, because that'll also be a month after their release when these cards have had a chance to be cooked with or moved on from. And right, like the hype of them has died down, and we're at a more realistic place of looking at the data and being realistic about if they're worth the resources or not. Let me know if that'd be valuable. So is Hydra Stomper worth it? And not yet, but he's very, very fun. I love move cards. I love move decks, and I like the new type of move deck that Hydra Stomper is bringing about. And so I think he's very fun. There's a reason that there's 12 decks in this video, because I've been playing a ton of Hydra Stomper decks. And that's a rare thing for me because I run out of deck slots really, really quickly. And so I find myself like intentionally limiting how much I'm cooking, because I don't want to have to delete other decks to try and brew up new ones. But with Hydra Stomper, I was like, I don't care. This deck that's been deck number 2 in my deck slots for months, delete it. I've saved it, right? Like Hydra Stomper brought out this excitement to build decks a little bit more risky and a little bit more cavalier, and I've had a ton of fun with it. However, in your resources at 6,000 tokens specifically, if you're trying to target him this week, I don't think he's worth it. If you get him later in the seasonal snap packs, I think he's a card that you can have a lot of fun with and have some valuable decks. But if you're trying to maximize your resources and get just the best cards, I don't think Hydra Stomper is among the best. I do think he is fun, though. And the reason I will say that Hydra Stomper in the decks, he is a really, really strong piece. However, they're move decks, and like I mentioned, they are inconsistent because you're pretty reliant on the draw of your cards working together to make the puzzle fit. And if you're not getting them, it's really hard for that deck to do anything. But with these new like non-move, like these non-movers move deck, like the Silk decks and the ones with Batroc and the ones with the Shield and Kraven, like those decks are going to be crazy with Hydra Stomper, so he can provide some value. So I don't think he's worth it yet, but I do think he is worth it as a card that is fun. So now we can, at the end of this video, look into the card that's coming out next week. We've been doing this for the last few weeks, so we will be into the new season. It's like the new X-Men or the young X-Men, something with X-Men, and the first like spotlight card, as they would be called, the card that's going to be in snap packs. We have the season pass of Esme Cuckoo, but this is Surge. She's going to be the first card released in snap packs. Her ability is on reveal, give the top card of your deck -1 cost and +1 power. After you play it, repeat this ability. We had the developer trailer release, and it has been confirmed that card, right? So she gives the top card of your deck -1 cost and +1 power. So let's say she hits Sebastian Shaw as an example. You play Sebastian Shaw on turn 3, he will repeat this ability, and the top card of your deck now gets -1 cost and +1 power. So you can just have this like chain reaction of cards, which is very, very cool. And I think that Surge is not... I got to change these. What make them X's, I guess? She is a 5X card. I think she's 5 out of 5, like almost 6. Like, how can this not be crazy? To me, it's like almost like Anti-Venom. Not Anti-Venom. Agent Venom. Then Agent Venom in his decks is so good. He is the win condition. He's not the win condition. He is just so powerful in his decks that he is a 5-star card to me. The same way that is Surge going to be an auto-include Galacta style 5-star card? No. Is she going to be a Sam Wilson style card that just goes in every deck? Not quite to that extreme. I think she's a good, like, going to be one of the new de facto 2-drops, but also in the deck specifically built to benefit from her ability. It's going to be crazy. Now, something to clarify, I've seen people talking online about this, that Red Guardian is going to go crazy this week because people are just going to target Surge with Red Guardian so that the repeating of the ability can't happen. Because they're saying, oh, if she's Red Guardian before the next card is revealed, it will take away the text of the ability repeating. That is incorrect. The same way that if someone plays Iron Patriot on 2, and then you Red Guardian them on 3, if they're winning that location, they still get the discount, even though the Iron Patriot's text wasn't taken away because it is all contained within the parameters of on reveal. So this benefit, this text of after you play it, repeat this ability, is triggered by Surge's on reveal, which can't be stopped except for by Cosmo, which if she's played on 2, Cosmo can't stop anyway. So Red Guardian would do nothing against Surge, just to clarify. I think she's going to be an insane card. I'm really looking forward to next season. I think we've got some cards that are really, really unique and going to bring out some cool cooks and hopefully make some space for some new decks, and we can move on from Thanos a little bit maybe. But anyway, thanks for watching this new type of video.